And they'd talk about the character, they'd talk about the integrity, they'd talk about the things that mattered to me.
Welcome back to our channel. Today, in quiet reverence, we remember the talented artists who left us too soon, some only just days ago. From the icons of Hollywood to rising stars, they each brought light to the world of entertainment, until they passed away suddenly. If you feel moved by their stories, we invite you to leave a like as a silent tribute in their memory. Thank you. Now, let us begin.
I usually read these over before we start the show. According to the lyrics of this 1967 hit,
Wink Martindale, the iconic voice behind America's favorite game shows, sadly has passed away at the age of 91. Fox News Digital confirmed his passing on April 15, 2025, at his home in Rancho Mirage, California. Surrounded by his beloved wife Sandra and family, Wink left this world peacefully, closing a remarkable chapter that spanned over 7 decades in entertainment. With a career stretching across 74 unforgettable years, Wink Martindale was a true veteran of American television. He became a household name as the host of legendary game shows like Tic-Tac-Dough, Gambit, High Rollers, and Debt. His warm presence and steady voice left a lasting cultural impact on generations of viewers. But behind the spotlight was a man of quiet strength and resilience. In an industry of constant change, Wink never faded. He reinvented himself time and again, adapting to new formats, nurturing lifelong friendships, and staying connected to fans through each era. His enduring bond with Elvis Presley, whom he met in 1954, stood as a testament to loyalty and humility. Wink is survived by his wife Sandra, 3 daughters, grandchildren, and his cherished Chihuahua. His final years were filled with love, reflection, and the legacy of a life well lived. If Wink's story touched your heart, consider subscribing to help preserve his legacy, so his voice may continue echoing through time. Iris Williams, the beloved Welsh jazz singer who once sang for the Queen, has sadly passed away at the age of 79. Her brother, Ashley Williams, confirmed the news on July 11, 2025. Iris died peacefully in the United States, where she had been living in her final years, far from the valleys of Wales she so dearly loved. Rising to fame in the 1980s with her signature hit, He Was Beautiful, Iris Williams enchanted audiences with her elegant voice and soulful interpretations. She performed for Queen Elizabeth II and U.S. President Gerald Ford, won the Conai Gymru competition, and was honored with an OBE in 2004 for her contributions to music and Welsh culture. But her journey to success was not without hardship. Born in 1946 and raised in a children's home, Iris overcame a difficult childhood to become one of Wales' most cherished voices. In my opinion, she was one of Wales' most underrated singers, her brother shared. It was very hard for her growing up. Tributes have poured in from admirers and peers alike. The St. David's Society of New York said she has joined the heavenly chorus. Her legacy lives on in every note she sang, a testament to perseverance, quiet dignity, and the healing power of song. Leslie Charlson, the heart of General Hospital for nearly 5 decades, has tragically passed away at the age of 79. The beloved actress died on January 12, 2025, while at the hospital. A month later, the Los Angeles Medical Examiner confirmed her cause of death as sequelae of blunt head trauma, a complication from a past head injury. The manner of death was ruled accidental. At the time, Leslie was also living with asthma, arthritis, atrial fibrillation, and a rare brain condition known as normal pressure hydrocephalus. Best known for her iconic role as Monica Quartermain, Leslie joined General Hospital in 1977 and remained a pillar of the show until her retirement in 2023. Her portrayal of Monica captured the hearts of generations, making her the longest-serving cast member in the show's history. Despite facing mounting health issues, Leslie continued working with quiet strength and professionalism. Her final project, stepping away from General Hospital after 46 years, marked a dignified and proud closing chapter to her remarkable career. Executive producer Frank Valentini paid tribute, calling her the beloved matriarch of our cast and crew. Her legacy goes beyond the screen, a symbol of grace, loyalty, and perseverance. May her memory live on in every episode she touched and in the hearts of those who loved her. Valerie Mahaffey, Emmy-winning star of Northern Exposure, has tragically passed away at the age of 71. Her publicist confirmed that Mahaffey died on May 30th after a quiet yet courageous battle with cancer. The beloved actress, whose career spanned over 5 decades, left this world surrounded by love and deep admiration from fans and peers alike. Valerie's unforgettable performance as Eve in Northern Exposure earned her a Primetime Emmy in 1992. With elegance and nuance, she brought depth to roles in Desperate Housewives, Young Sheldon, and Dead to Me. Her work on stage was equally celebrated, winning 2 Obie Awards and earning an Independent Spirit Award nomination for French Exit, a late-career triumph that reminded us all of her enduring brilliance. Born in Indonesia and raised across continents, Valerie embodied quiet strength and artistry. Even as illness shadowed her final days, she remained a beacon of grace, never retreating from her love for storytelling. Her husband, actor Joseph Kell, shared in mourning, "I have lost the love of my life, and America has lost one of its most endearing actresses." Her daughter added tenderly, "I'll look for you in all the fun moments of life." Through her warmth, wit, and breathtaking craft, Valerie Mahaffey leaves behind a legacy that will continue to shine on screen and in our hearts.
Well, it was amazing because it's all I ever wanted. I started out life with very low self-esteem.
Richard Chamberlain, the romantic icon of television and tormented priest of the Thornbirds, has sadly passed away at the age of 90. His longtime companion Martin Rabbit confirmed the news on March 29th, stating tenderly, "Our beloved Richard is now with the angels." Though no specific cause was shared, the revered actor left this world quietly, in keeping with the grace that defined his life. Chamberlain rose to stardom in the early 1960s as Dr. Kildare, captivating America with his ocean-deep eyes and noble poise. But his greatest legacy came through roles that blended emotion and courage: the conflicted priest Ralph de Bricassar in The Thornbirds, and the fearless Captain Blackthorne in Shogun. He was also the original Jason Bourne, a dashing Aramis, and a beloved Shakespearean actor on the British stage. Yet behind the charm was a man who bore a silent burden. For most of his career, Chamberlain concealed his sexuality, fearing the cost to his stardom. Only in his memoir, Shattered Love, did he reveal his truth, a moment of quiet redemption that inspired millions. Richard lived with quiet elegance. He turned silence into dignity and distance into loyalty. Through his performances and personal courage, he leaves us a legacy of resilience, artistry, and quiet strength that will echo for generations. Loretta Swit, the beloved actress who redefined strength and sensitivity as Major Margaret Houlihan on MASH, has sadly passed away at the age of 87. Her publicist confirmed that she died of natural causes at her home in New York City on May 30th, 2025. It was a peaceful farewell, fitting for a woman who brought grace and fire to every role she touched. Swit's legacy was etched into television history through her 11-season run on MASH, earning 10 Emmy nominations and 2 wins. But beyond accolades, it was her quiet revolution that stood out. She transformed Hot Lips from a one-note stereotype into a complex human portrait of dignity and depth. As Alan Alda said, she didn't just play the role, she created it. Loretta Sweet's career extended beyond television into theater and film, but perhaps her greatest achievement was in changing how women were portrayed on screen. She worked tirelessly to elevate her character, to fight for substance, and to honor real women in uniform. Her co-stars called her family. Her impact is eternal. As Jamie Farr said, "There is a void in my life now, and in that silence echoes a legacy of cultural impact, redemption, and quiet strength that will never fade." Angie Stone, the soulful voice behind "Wish I Didn't Miss You," has tragically passed away at the age of 63. Her longtime publicist, Yvonne Forbes, confirmed that Stone died in a vehicle collision on the morning of March 1st, while returning to Atlanta after a performance in Mobile, Alabama. She was surrounded by members of her tour team when the tragic accident occurred. Born in Columbia, South Carolina, Angie Stone began her journey in music in the late 1970s with the pioneering rap trio, The Sequence. Her rise to fame blossomed in the neo-soul era with albums like Black Diamond and Mahogany Soul, and her Grammy-nominated hits such as More Than a Woman and U-Haul became cornerstones of modern R&B. She also left her mark on screen, with more than 40 acting credits and the unforgettable theme song of the series Girlfriends. But her journey was not without struggle. Self-taught, resilient, and deeply spiritual, Angie often spoke of being stretched but never broken. Even weeks before her passing, she shared her hope and purpose, writing, "God gave me this gift, and I have shared it with the world. I have so much more to give." Angie is survived by her son, artist Suavo Twain. Her final film, Abused, remains in post-production, a poignant epilogue to a life filled with soul, courage, and creativity. Her legacy, like her voice, will echo far beyond the stage.
I am not on yours. Don't you ever forget that, bitch.
Nicky Katt, scene-stealing star of Dazed and Confused, sadly has passed away at the age of 54. His passing was confirmed this week at his Los Angeles area home, leaving behind a quiet ache in Hollywood. Though he departed the spotlight years ago, his body of work continues to shine in memory. Over nearly 4 decades, Katt built a career defined by risk-taking, nuance, and unforgettable screen presence. From his breakout in Dazed and Confused to riveting performances in A Time to Kill, Insomnia, Boston Public, and The Dark Knight, his roles added texture and soul to every scene he touched. Directors praised his preparation, inventiveness, and precision. His every line, whether scripted or ad-libbed, delivered with gold standard timing. Despite retreating from the screen after 2018, Katt's impact never faded. Filmmaker Robert Rodriguez remembered him as a true artist, whose brand of magic will live forever. Though his voice has fallen silent, Nicky Katt's legacy echoes on, in the films we revisit, in the characters that linger, in the quiet genius of a man who gave everything to his craft. If his story touched your heart, consider subscribing to help preserve the memory of his remarkable journey. Roberta Flack, the voice behind Killing Me Softly, has sadly passed away at 88. The music world is mourning the loss of Roberta Flack, the Grammy-winning soul legend who peacefully passed away on February 24th at the age of 88, surrounded by her loving family. Her passing was confirmed by her longtime representative, though the specific cause was not disclosed. Flack had been privately battling ALS for over 2 years, a diagnosis that ultimately silenced her singing voice, but never her spirit. Flack rose to international fame in the 1970s with iconic #1 hits like The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face, Killing Me Softly with his song, and Feel Like Makin' Love. She remains the only solo artist to win back-to-back Grammys for Record of the Year. Her voice, both soulful and soothing, became a soundtrack to countless lives. Even after suffering a stroke in 2016 and a serious bout with COVID-19 in 2022, Flack continued to inspire. She released Running in 2018, saying, "Music still gives me life." In 2023, she was honored with an honorary doctorate from Berklee College of Music, a final tribute to a lifelong educator and artist. Flack's legacy lives on, not just in awards or records, but in the hearts she touched. As tributes pour in from fans and fellow artists alike, we remember a woman whose quiet strength and unmatched artistry left an indelible mark on the world. He was Hollywood's most silent cowboy, until one day he spoke. At 80, Sam Elliott finally broke his silence, naming the 7 stars he could never ride with. One he called a diva in boots, another all ego, no talent. For decades he held his tongue. But now the gloves and the hat are off. So who were the actors Sam Elliott couldn't stand to work with? And what exactly pushed this quiet giant to finally speak out? Stay with us until the very end to discover the 7 names that shattered his silence. But before we begin, we'd love to hear from you. What's your favorite performance, quote, or moment from Sam Elliott's long and unforgettable career? And if you had to rate him on a scale from 1 to 100, what number would you give him? Let us know in the comments below, because every memory, every tribute, helps preserve the legacy of a man who meant so much to so many. Born in 1944 in Sacramento, California, Elliott's roots were modest. His father worked for the Department of the Interior and expected his son to follow a straight, sensible path. Acting, in his father's words, wasn't a real job. When Elliott was just 18, his father died of a heart attack, sudden, final, and unresolved. That loss shaped him. In interviews, Elliott has said he spent his entire career chasing a kind of quiet redemption, not from scandal, but from a need to prove he could live a life that mattered. He moved to Oregon with his mother shortly after, and there, among forests, hills, and long silences, he found a kind of stillness that never left him. Elliott never chased fame. He earned his way up the Hollywood ladder through years of small roles and quiet performances, always choosing restraint over spectacle. It wasn't until his late 30s that he began to receive attention for his work, and even then, he never let success change his posture. In films like Tombstone, Roadhouse, and The Big Lebowski, Elliott didn't deliver performances. He delivered presence. He didn't act the cowboy. He understood him. His characters spoke few words, but every pause was loaded. Every glance carried a lifetime. That was his legacy, showing that real strength doesn't shout. It listens. And yet, as Hollywood changed, Elliott began to feel the world around him slipping away. Westerns became ironic. Values turned performative. Acting, in many cases, became more about headlines than honesty. He watched as roles were filled by actors who, in his eyes, wore the West like a costume. People who had never set foot on a ranch, never touched a horse, never tasted silence. For years, Elliott said nothing. He was raised that way. Speak when spoken to. Let your work do the talking. But silence, even for a man like him, has its limit. Then came the moment. In a now famous podcast appearance, Elliott was asked about a recent Oscar-winning film that attempted to reimagine the Western genre. What followed wasn't planned. It wasn't rehearsed. It was raw, unsparing, and, to those who knew him, completely authentic. He didn't just critique the film. He tore into it. He questioned the casting. He questioned the director. He questioned the entire cultural shift that, in his eyes, had taken something sacred and turned it into something hollow. That interview became the turning point, the late career moment when Elliott, long admired for his quiet, finally decided the silence was doing more harm than good. Sam Elliott didn't just act in westerns. He lived by a code: authenticity above popularity, silence over spectacle, truth over trend. And as you'll soon see, when that code was broken, he didn't look away. He spoke. For most of his life, Sam Elliott chose silence. He didn't need to raise his voice. He didn't chase headlines. But in his 8th decade, something changed. Perhaps it was age. Perhaps it was time. But one morning, the cowboy who'd spent a lifetime letting others do the talking finally leaned forward and spoke. What he said sent ripples across Hollywood. On a podcast that seemed, at first, like any other, Sam Elliott made clear what had long simmered beneath his quiet surface. He named names, he criticized choices, and in doing so, he stepped into a role more daunting than any he'd played on screen. The last man standing for a way of life he felt was slipping away. His words cut deep because they came without malice. They weren't shouted. They were spoken like verdicts from someone who had earned the right to say them. What followed was the unraveling of a truth he could no longer carry in silence. The first name was Benedict Cumberbatch. Sam had watched The Power of the Dog, not with curiosity, but with something close to grief. The performance, while praised by many, felt to him like theater, not truth. He saw an actor in a costume, not a cowboy with a past. "What does this Brit know about the American West?" he asked, his voice tight with frustration. To others, it was an opinion, but to Sam, it was a violation of something sacred, a breaking of the unspoken rule. Don't act the West unless you've lived it. Then came Nicolas Cage. For years, Sam had watched Cage erupt on screen with a fury that audiences found electric. But to Sam, it felt like noise. "He's fireworks without flame," he once said. Acting for Elliott was a slow burn, a discipline of restraint. Cage, with his unpredictable crescendos and manic energy, represented the very opposite. Sam never accused him of lacking talent. What he saw, and couldn't accept, was a style that glorified chaos over clarity. In a world already moving too fast, Cage pushed the gas even harder, and Sam, the eternal horseman, pulled the reins. Kevin Costner's name followed not long after. To many, Costner was the face of a modern Western revival. Yellowstone had reignited a cultural fascination with the ranching world. But to Sam, it felt like imitation, glossy, curated, safe. "It's a soap opera in a cowboy hat," he reportedly told a friend. The boots were too clean, the dialogue too polished. It wasn't the dust and silence he had known. It was something scripted to feel like memory, but hollow at its core. When offered a cameo, Sam declined. Not out of ego, but out of principle. "I couldn't be part of something that looks like the West but doesn't carry its soul," he said. That was the line he wouldn't cross. Next came Jared Leto. Method acting to Sam had always meant disappearing into the truth of a role, not making headlines with off-camera antics. Leto's performances, though celebrated by some, felt performative to Elliott. "He's acting like acting is a carnival," he muttered once, more with sadness than disdain. Sam's own sobriety journey through Hollywood had always been about subtraction, about peeling away everything unnecessary until only the truth remained. To him, Leto added too much. The noise, the stunts, the attention, it all drowned out the craft. Then there was Ashton Kutcher. On paper, they were an odd pair. On set, it showed. They worked together on the ranch, and while the production ran smoothly, there was a distance. Sam was polite, professional, but never close. "He's a decent guy," Sam said privately, "but no real actor." It wasn't bitterness, it was disappointment. Kutcher's charisma couldn't cover what Sam felt was missing. Weight, presence, the kind that comes not from media training, but from life lived hard and honest. But perhaps the most public rift came with director Jane Campion. After his comments about The Power of the Dog, Campion fired back at the Directors Guild of America Awards. "He's not a cowboy," she said from the stage. "He's an actor." To the room, it was a rebuke. To Sam, it was the final straw. In his view, she had taken the Western, a form he saw as sacred, and turned it into metaphor. Beautiful, yes, but disconnected. It wasn't about gender. It wasn't even about culture. It was about respect. "You don't paint a barn unless you felt its wood," he said once. That's what he meant. Not exclusion, just experience. And then came Jeff Bridges, the name he never wanted to say, the friendship he never thought he'd lose. For years, they had stood side by side, two men who understood silence as a language. In The Big Lebowski, their chemistry was effortless. Their bond, off-screen, seemed unshakable. But something changed after Bridges won his Oscar. Slowly, subtly, the distance grew. Fewer calls, no shared premieres, no words, just a space that widened. Sam never spoke harshly. Only once did he let it slip. Some folks change. Others just show who they really are. It wasn't an accusation. It was mourning. Not of ego, but of something rarer. A kindred spirit lost to the industry they both once resisted. 7 names, each one marking a fracture, not in Sam's reputation, but in his hope. Hope that the values he held dear still had a place. Hope that the West he carried in his bones hadn't become just another backdrop. But in speaking, he didn't seek revenge. He sought redemption, not for himself, but for the truth. His comeback wasn't to reclaim relevance. It was to remind us what was once real. And now, having said what needed saying, he turned again to silence. Not in defeat, but in dignity. Because for Sam Elliott, saying less was never weakness. It was the final word. Away from the lights, away from the cameras, there is a long gravel road that winds up into the hills of Malibu. No red carpet, no gates, no crowds. Just silence, oak trees, and a porch where Sam Elliott sometimes sits with a mug of black coffee, his voice barely above a whisper. If you were to ask him what mattered most, he wouldn't say fame or film or even legacy. He might just point to the woman sitting beside him, Catherine Ross. Their love story began the way all quiet epics do, not with fireworks, but with timing. He saw her first in 1969 on the set of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. She was the leading lady, luminous and untouchable. He was a shadow in the background, a man with no lines. So he watched her come and go, never saying a word. It would take nearly a decade before fate gave him a second chance. In 1978, they reunited on the set of The Legacy, this time as equals. By then, Ross had lived through 4 marriages. Sam had never married. The timing was imperfect, but the connection was undeniable. She divorced. He waited. And in 1984, they married quietly. No headlines, no spectacle. Later that year, they welcomed their only child, a daughter named Cleo. Where others in Hollywood built families for photo ops, Sam and Catherine built theirs for life. No grand announcements, no reality shows, just a small home, some horses, and a belief that what's private should stay sacred. For nearly 40 years, they have weathered everything: distance, aging, the changing tides of fame. And through it all, Sam has remained loyal, not just to her, but to the quiet way they chose to live. Cleo, their daughter, didn't follow the family trade. She became a musician, one with her own voice, one her parents supported fully. "They're just happy I'm not trying to be an actor," she once said, laughing. But behind that laugh was truth. Sam never needed his daughter to continue his career. He only wanted her to continue the values he held dear: authenticity, self-respect, and honesty in expression. As Sam grew older, the pace of the world quickened. But he slowed down, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He retreated from Hollywood, not in bitterness, but in clarity. He chose fresh air over film sets, his wife's cooking over premieres, and long walks over interviews. His health, though not frail, began to remind him of the miles behind him. The strong shoulders now carried more wisdom than weight. His voice, still thunderous when needed, grew softer in tone, but deeper in meaning. Those who visited said there was peace around him, not stillness, but presence. He kept his mind sharp, his body active, and his spirit unburdened. He never feared aging. He feared only forgetting why he started. And so, in his quiet way, he became something few actors ever managed to become: an anchor, a keeper of a slower, stronger time, a veteran mentor not through lectures, but by being exactly who he always was. Sam Elliott's cultural impact isn't measured in box office numbers or social media impressions. It's measured in the way he made people feel. For men who grew up with fathers who never said much, Sam's characters became a familiar echo. For women who saw strength in silence, he was proof that masculinity didn't have to be loud to be powerful. For young actors trying to find their place in a noisy world, he was a North Star, a man who showed that the stillest voice could carry the deepest truth. Even now, when he rarely appears on screen, his name still draws reverence, not out of nostalgia, but out of respect. Because in every role he took, in every decision he made, Sam Elliott stood for something, and in a world that too often stands for nothing, that matters. So what does his legacy look like? It looks like a young actor deciding to hold a beat of silence, because Sam Elliott taught him that silence can speak volumes. It looks like a father remembering to listen before he lectures, because Sam's characters always waited before they spoke. It looks like a man growing old without growing bitter, choosing to be graceful, not resentful. And maybe it looks like this: an old cowboy hat resting on a hook, a pair of boots by the door, and just outside, a lone figure walking down a dirt path at golden hour. The sun is low, the light is warm, the wind carries nothing but stillness. He doesn't turn to wave, he doesn't need to. We know it's Sam. We are lucky, truly lucky, to still have him with us. Not just as an actor, but as a reminder. That integrity still exists, that some men never needed to change to stay great. And that, sometimes, the ones who speak the least leave the most unforgettable echo. If his life and work have ever moved you, taught you, or simply made you pause and feel, then we invite you to carry his legacy forward. Share this video with someone who needs to remember what quiet strength looks like. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel to help us continue honoring the people who shaped our world. Thank you for watching. And thank you, Sam, for everything.